Bravo. That concludes our service. So what if that was the response? Like, oh, what are we going to do about this? It's like, all is well with my soul. Did you see the way she looked at you? All is well with my soul. This is a real problem. All is well with my soul. So what's the consequences of not living this out? What's the consequences of going into the allure, the mighty allure of, did you see the way she looked at you? What's the allure of living at the whim of the humanity of us? Say it out loud. Stress, suffering, misery, angst, anxiety, unhappiness. Sound like much of a life? Does it sound like much of a radiating force to attract? It gets funnier and funnier. This is why they won't let me lead the peace song. Because we're singing the peace song. And how does it go? Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with. And what we're secretly saying and holding and believing is, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with him. And let it begin with Bob. And let it begin with her. And as soon as she apologizes, I'll think about it. And as soon as she quits giving me the look, I'll redeem her. So this is the space. This is the space between the words and the singing and the saying and the theory of there's one power and one presence in all the universe and in my life, but it ain't her. Or is it? So who would you be? What would it be like? Even though you don't have to like it, you don't have to love it for sure, if you lived from, it's all included. Everything is included. And until I include everything, who's suffering? For everything I don't include, I'm in conflict with. For everything I don't include, I'm in stress over. So then who is suffering me? Who's the cause of this? This is good news this morning. Turn to somebody and tell them, hey, this is good news. This is good news this morning. This is good news this morning. The prison I'm in is in my own mind, and the door is wide open. But oh, the allure to sit there. Oh, the allure to gather more evidence for ain't it awful? Ain't it awful? And then to the degree that I gather more evidence for ain't it awful, what am I going to be blind to? How well things are going. Which doesn't deny there's not something that could use some attention today. But in the big scheme of things, there's some things going all right today. The same thing will apply here. We do it in our body, like you've probably got a ache or pain or two in your body, in a knee or a hip or a neck or a back. And what does it focus on? Now we've got this much body. Well, some of us have got this much. We got this much body, and how much pain is in the body? Or how many parts of the body? But what are we focused on? It gets all the attention. Then that's all we talk about. That's like, how are you? Knee pain. Oh, knee pain, knee pain. Can you believe the knee pain? It's like, well, there's 99 more parts. How are they? And then that becomes our life. The same thing will go if we get terminated out of a job or severed out of a job. It's like, have you heard? They fired me. It's like, wait a minute, I've been working 60 years and I've been fired how many times? You can count them on your hand usually. Not many. But what's it focusing on? The allure. To focus there. To ain't it awful it. And can you believe? And after all I've done for them. So this is what we're dealing with, the power of this mind that's going to continue to awfulize and to gather evidence to support how awful it is if we do not circuit break that. If we do not jump off of that track and lay down a new track and run enough on that track that it's more appealing to us now than the old track. There's more fit here. There's more interest here. There's more atonement here. There's more alignment on this new way of being than in that old way of being. So it's a shift from ain't it awful to what's awesome. Awful or awesome. And then where I'm going to give the attention is what's going to increase. Basic unity. Whatever I give the attention to will grow, will expand. Whatever I resist, persist. So it will grow with my resisting of that, or denying it, or pretending through it. So let's think about it now relative to a time of transition, a transition in leadership. You got the news that Greg is retiring. So he's not actually going into retirement, he's going into entirement. You see the difference? He's going into something larger, the next greatest iteration for his soul, for what he's called to do, for what he's here to do. And some of us don't like that a bit. Like, what about us? What about us? We kind of like you. Now, some of you may be doing a secret happy dance because he wasn't your cup of tea. Well, guess what? That's not news to him, because we know, just like you know, we're not everybody's cup of tea. So then in this transition time, it's like then how that we've got till October, if you're learning from Greg and loving the classes and the teaching, it's all laid down. It's going to be intact. Like, get over here, keep coming to services, go to the classes, like soak it up, do everything you can do between now and his departure to go on to this next greatest iteration, October 1. And in the meantime, what's going to happen if at any time during this process you begin to see this or frame this up or relate to this like it's a problem or that it's awful? What's going to be created? Stress, anxiety, fear, terror, disharmony. Then we go back to the old way of being. You know, where two or more are gathered, there will be bristling. Instead of where two or more are gathered, there's going to be creation. Where two or more are gathered, there's going to be intention setting. Where two or more are gathered, we're going to use the causative creative nature of our minds and intend how we want to relate to the next iteration of ourselves as souls evolving, and the next greatest iteration of ourselves as an organization, as a ministry, on who and how and what we want to attract here to be in relationship with us and to serve as a spiritual head and as a spiritual leader, as a teacher for us. And you're well equipped for this. Can you get a sense of that? Your spiritual practice, what you've been at in this particular ministry, a very distinct unity ministry, for 75 or 80 years now? That you've got very deep roots and a sustainability that's uncommon, all while the industry of church is in a death process. Have you noticed? 10,000 churches annually are closing in the U.S. 10,000. Now, you can look around your neighborhoods and see some of this. You can talk to your friends and see, oh, we don't meet there anymore, we're meeting over there anymore, or we sold a building, or we did this, or we did that. You can see it in Montreal. I was there on a tour, and they're like, hey, this is the so-and-so church, it's condos. Hey, this is so-and-so church, it's condos. So this is the nature of the industry. Now, while the industry is doing that, what's Unity of Delray doing? The opposite of that. From deep root system, thriving, growing, expanding, all in the same phenomena of that. So give yourselves a round of applause. Give yourselves a big hand for who you are, what you're doing here, and the miracles you're making intentionally, so this next iteration of church will have to be a different iteration of church than we've seen for the last 500 years or 2,000 years. So we're going to have to think about what is going to be the church of the next 100 years. And what can people relate to? And you're doing well with that, because there's nobody that knows yet what that's going to look like, but it looks like it's a spiritual community, a spiritual center where people come for classes, meditation, prayer, to eat together, to pray together and for one another, to celebrate, to be inspired, to be comforted at times when comfort is called for, and to be challenged out of this old way, to grow spiritually and to grow up emotionally and to get emotional and spiritual maturity and to serve the community and to serve kids needing a backpack and to serve a 12-step community meeting over here every night of the week nearly. So you're doing a fantastic job in so many ways. And your stewardship here of this organization is going to make all the difference. It's already made all the difference for there. It'll make all the difference now during this transition time, and all the difference in what we do here in this root system during this transition time that prepares us for the next 100 years of spiritual community and to keep this iconic position that you hold in and within the Unity movement. So when I say that you're miracle makers, it's literal. When I say that you're miracle makers, now I'm witnessing what's going on in the industry and even within our movement. And I'm witnessing you using the power of spiritual principles and the power of spiritual practice to create and to cause something different here than to be in the whim of a phenomena of an industry that's going the other way. So Godspeed as you continue to do that. So think about then this process that's laid out. Greg has notified you of his last day, October 1, and then his last Sunday here, September 29th. You have a very equipped search committee that's set up with 4 people on the board and the staff that's been around the mulberry bush a time or two, and a process that is due process for how to send a packet in about what your ministry is about. It goes to Unity World Headquarters. They open it up into then a field of ministers out into the field to say this ministry is now available for application. Then the applications will come in. The search committee will begin discerning them, praying with them, seeing if they're a match for what's required here for the CEO and the spiritual head of this particular organization, and if there's a match to the applicant, and then vetting processes, interview processes. It will unfold then over a period of months, and you'll be informed all along the way of what's going on. You also have Greg here to ask questions of. Lori here to ask questions with. The board's here if you'll just stand. Your board of directors is here. They're here, that you can ask them questions. Terry's over here. Charlene was here earlier, so they're available to answer your questions. And then, as Greg said, we'll be here at the end of this service and after fellowship at 12:30 to open up the field to see what are your questions, if you have concerns. If any of your prayers for a blessing also are welcome, so the field will be open for anything that's on your mind or your heart about that. So then, as we proceed into this time of transition, I want you to kind of check in with yourself and see what contribution you can make to making this transition time a time of miracle making. What's a thing or two that you can do that's going to affect the outcomes of this transition time? Say it out loud. Prayer. Show up. Keep coming. Commitment. Deepen my commitment. Where am I serving? How can I serve? What can I do? What can I volunteer for? What can I spearhead? Anything that's announced, I'm going to throw something in toward that ministry. I'm going to do backpacks. I'm going to bring food. I'm going to, faith, the power of faith that says even with the allure, with I need to know, I need to know, I need to know. It's like, I'm going to choose faith here. I'm going to choose the perfection of the unfolding here. Trust, love, staying positive. This will all take some work. It's also the most causative, creative power that we hold. So whatever you intend to be and intend to do through this process will be a determinant, an influence. Bob thinks it can be fun. Anybody else? Would you be open to it to being a little fun? Can we have a collective amen? What if it doesn't have to be so serious and so uptight that we can actually have a little fun here too? And think about the power of that creation to do that. So get a sense then within your life and within your soul of how it's evolving according to a divine plan. Not yours, likely, but to a divine plan. Let go, let God, or suffer. Suffer some more. So get a sense then of being this in your body, of being in this state. So it's no longer theory now after today, but this is an embodiment of this that I'm holding. It's not something outside of me, not something I'm referring to outside of me, but an embodiment of this. I bring an embodiment of this here with me today. And the possibility, the potential that is unfolding. And that things don't go from imperfect to perfect to imperfect to perfect to imperfect to perfect. That's mind-made. Mind says it's not perfect. Mind says it's a problem. That doesn't make it so. And if I follow that labeling, if I follow that allure, what will I create in my life? If I call it trouble, what am I going to experience? I call it a problem, what am I going to experience? Basic unity. So what am I going to call it? Besides that, even if I call it challenge, what will I experience? Versus, this is what is. This is what's unfolding. This is what's included here. And until I include all of this, then I'll be at stress with it. So then the work is inclusivity, including all of what human beings have said and done and thought for the last 2,000 years, and then cleaning and growing my own consciousness so that I can be a leader, a model, a teacher for a heightened state of consciousness, a heightened state of response, a heightened state of collaboration, of innovation, of resourcefulness, instead of the old, painful, animalistic way, the old, painful, regressive way. So get a sense that what's unfolding is unfolding according to its own divine nature. And that it is representative of a potential that we're not aware of yet. A potential, then, that will actualize. And it will not consult you. And what it would be like to laugh like that as you watched it. Like, that's not what I had in mind. It's perfect instead. It's not how I thought it would go. It's not how even I wanted it to go. It's perfect instead. So it's not going from perfect to imperfect to perfect to imperfect to perfect to imperfect. It's going how? Turn to somebody and give them a high five. We've all had an awakening here this morning. So to perfection, to perfection, to perfection, to perfection. And I may not be able to experience it as that as yet. It's hard to look upon certain situations and say, there's perfection in that. What if we just go in that direction? That I may not realize yet the perfection of this, but I'm determined. I'm determined to put my mind in that direction. One of our early teachers used to say, I demand to see the blessing in this. I demand to see the blessing in this. So even that could keep us a little lighter hearted. And our 2-year-old stance when we don't get what we want. No! 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 I don't have to like it. I don't have to love it. And it's happening. It's occurring. So all the power in the universe resides in how I relate to this. Can you say that with me? All the power in the universe resides in how I relate to this. Take a big deep breath. And get a sense today that some of the Velcro is off of you. And some of the things that used to appeal to you or allure you has lost some of its effects on you. Lead us not into the temptation of mind. Deliver me. Deliver me to reality. Deliver me to what is actual. Deliver me to potential. Deliver me to a mind that's collaborative and innovative and resourceful and causative and creative. Deliver me into that path. For there is the power. There is the glory. And there is a new potential. And where there's potential, there's actualization. Then we intently go in that direction. So thank you for being here, your commitments here, your stewardship here. Thank you for being a flagship organization in our movement. Thank you for attracting and hiring and supporting flagship staff, flagship boards, and flagship ministers that's going to be flagship all the way through the next iteration of this. And if there's ever a way that I can support you, get directly in touch with me. So have some fellowship and come back in at 12:30 to be a part of this creative process. Certainly if you have questions or anything you want to share or voice, to come back in then. I bow to you. I thank you. I love you. And I'll be cheerleading you on all the way. All the way. Yeah, come on.